Welcome to the Rock Solid Families podcast. I am Linda Hutchinson here with my soulmate, Merle. How are you?
Soulmate,
yeah.
That's kind of new agey, isn't it?
Well, I don't know.
Is that new agey?
Well, my respect partner, love mate, I don't know what you want to call it.
Love mate.
How do I tie in love and respect? Because
partner.
If you, maybe if
now
you
we're
listen,
speaking.
Maybe if you listen to the end of part 1 of Love and Respect, you heard a little bit of the love partner thing.
We are doing part 2 this evening, and so part 2 last week we released part 1 of Love and Respect. Okay, so we are going, and that was all about the man,
about the man.
It was all about the man. So we did the man first. We did the man first because it is more likely that women will listen to the part 2 than men. Men do not follow through. I'm just telling you.
I think you're underestimating our men.
Prove me wrong, dude.
Prove me wrong. If you're a dude and you're listening to part 2,
say,
and
Merle, I listened to part 2.
And if you are a man who wants to know how to love his wife, I want to hear.
Tune in,
and I want you to reach out and say, I'm one of those men.
Do you know how most men listen to Strong Dad's show?
What?
Their wife listens to it and says, honey, you need to listen to this show.
Well, speaking of that, I so appreciate you guys recently, a couple weeks ago, did a show on how to cherish your wife, how to honor her. And so Carl Andry is your co-host, and his wife's name is Linda too, and she's a good friend of mine. And so we were both like blown away. We're like, I'm going to like write this down, you know? So
it's tough when you record that stuff because you can't hide from it.
That's right. Yeah. I got it on tape. So we are going to talk about how do wives feel loved and how that gets complimented. And if you weren't listening to last week, we really encourage you to go back because we talked about Dr. Emerson Eggerich's book, Love and Respect. It's been a game changer for us in our marriage.
Yeah.
I read this book decades ago, and we really applied it to our marriage, but also our work. Right. And we've seen a lot of great things come from it. And honestly, when we don't see eye to eye, because we are different, male and females are different, we get in this thing called the crazy cycle, where we're literally just chasing our tail. And he says that it's not either one of our faults. And how we get off of it is somebody being the mature one to recognize we're just chasing our tail.
Right.
And we're seeing things from different perspectives. And so how do we crack that communication code between a husband and a wife? And it really comes from, honestly, hon, this really weird thing of unconditional love and respect. Unconditional. Not if they do this for me, I'll do this for them. That's not unconditional.
Yeah.
But that's what God's called us to do.
I don't love her just when she's acting nice and lovable. I love her no matter what, all right? You don't respect me just when I'm being a good guy.
Yeah.
Now, we did this in the first show because this is where Emerson got kicked back on. People were like, I am not going to respect a man who abuses or whatever. Yeah. That's not what we're talking about. We do not respect bad behavior, but we respect the person. And that is something that we are called to do. All people are people of God, right? And so we all demand that or desire that love and that respect. And so that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. You mentioned Ephesians 5, and that's where Emerson gets his really basis for this book, where it talks about, one, mutual respect for one another out of reverence for Christ, but then it also says that a husband should love his wife as he loves the church, and a wife should respect her husband. And so he actually there's different words being used by Paul, the Apostle Paul, in the book of Ephesians, and Emerson would say it's because men and women are wired differently.
Yeah.
And that he's asking us to do different things. So we did this in the first show, and I'm asking for you to do it in this show. And we're asking you to find a piece of paper and put this acrostic down the paper. Last week, the acrostic was chairs. Okay, and if you don't know what chair stands for, go back and listen.
You got to listen to the show.
You got to listen to the show. This week we're going to do couple, couple, and so we're going to go through that as to what a woman needs, a wife needs to feel loved.
Yeah, I will be the first to tell you, I was clueless. I mean, I read stuff in a book, but to actually go, like, I was dismissive. Oh, that's not that big of a deal, okay? And so I've had to actually say, I don't need Linda to be more like me. I need to understand more of her. And so the C, what's that stand for?
closeness. And I remember dating in college, having this discussion. It was a lively discussion because you refused to do PDA. I do not agree with public displays of affection. And all I was asking for...
Merle
you
does
said
not,
that, yes.
Yeah.
All I was asking for is not walk 2 steps ahead of me or behind me walking across campus, walk alongside me and hold my hand. And you're like, ugh, I don't like PDA. And I was just literally asking for closeness.
Did I say it like that?
I think so. I think it was.
Yeah, and so this was something that I dismissed, like it's not that big of a deal. We're not high school kids, right? And so I dismissed it, and with the idea that you just want to feel connected, and you also want me to be proud that I'm with you out in public and that we are connected that way. And I was dismissive of it, and I didn't realize that was hurting you.
We also... when it comes to closeness, ladies don't want to always be touched because you want to have sex.
Man, you're throwing a curveball at me here. Like, so
we have this. What do you mean curveball? Like we've had this discussion for 37 years.
So we hear this all the time. I don't even want my husband to put his arm around me because if I accept it right away, he's going to say, "Good, I'm getting ready to have
there's
sex."
A chance. Yeah.
And so you're saying right now to me that there's not always a chance.
I'm just saying that it shouldn't always have to lead to that.
That's okay.
That's closeness.
So the idea of just being
non-sexual
close,
touch.
Non-sexual, carries great value to you ladies.
Yes.
All right, Lord, I'm going to have to figure this one out. All right. I'm working on it.
Okay.
All right. So what is the O?
Openness is when I feel comfortable and trust how you're feeling. Like you're open with me about sharing your feelings and tell me about your day. And you're not kind of like biting back at me with like grunting or harshness. Like you're not shutting me down emotionally. Like I need to feel like we are working together to share our day, not what happened, but how we are doing. Right. And I want there to be back and forth. I want to hear about you and I want you to ask me about me. I want there to be an openness there. Yeah. Emotionally.
And I struggle with that. I don't struggle with that most of the time. But when there's tension between us, you can feel it, I can feel it. But I do this for a living, and I'm very slow to come up with the words.
I don't want to step in that water.
I don't want to go. And so my nature of avoidance, and by the way, us men are avoiders. I see it across the board every day. A lot of avoiders because we just don't want to step into it. Yeah. And so the idea that you want to make sure that we're always good, and I'm open with my thoughts. And that's just something. Well, you do a very good job with that. And that you say, "Are you sure we're okay? Are you sure we're okay?"
Something I'm seeing says you're not.
You feel the tension, and you check back in with me. And there may be a time where you say, "Are we okay?" And I'm not quite ready to go there yet. And I'll give you an answer that you usually read very well. I'll say something like, "Yeah, we're fine." Just the tone of that, you're like, good enough that you go, we're not fine. Yeah. And you swing back around. And finally, when we got it in a better place where we can approach each other. One reason why a lot of us men won't approach or bring something out is we don't want it to get worse, right? And so if I say something, it's just even going to get worse. And so this is where you got to both play fair. You got to play nice.
Yeah, but the ladies, pick your time wisely. Don't ask him as he's walking out the door or he's right. I'm good at this, like asking right before you're going to sleep. And so you got to pick a time where they're going to be willing. You ask
a lot of questions. Guys, I lay my head on the pillow. Linda's still in brushing her teeth. Her routine takes 15 minutes. Mine takes about 50 seconds.
There's a lot to wash face.
And while Linda's doing that, her brain starts on fire. And she is talking and rambling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she wants me to answer.
Okay. So that leads to letter U.
Letter U.
Understanding. I need you to try to understand me and empathize with me. Like there is a lot of rolling around here. And it's so funny because Christmas time, you always get upset that I get all worked up, but you just got to show up and maybe carve the turkey. Like, I
do a heck of a job on the turkey.
I just need you to understand and listen to me. Like there's a lot of things that go on here. And so for you to understand and empathize, like I do all the shopping and the wrapping and the cleaning and the cooking and like so it is hard. And so I just sometimes just need you to listen or show that you appreciate what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and empathy is that idea of stepping outside of ourselves and try to walk through somebody else's shoes, right? And so I think not intentionally, us men oftentimes don't intentionally ignore it. We just don't get it.
Yeah.
We just don't get it. It doesn't hit us. And so, I've tried to do better at seeing the stress on you when you got the Christmas stuff going on. And this doesn't frustrate you like it used to. You used to assume that I should know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be getting it, and you would get madder and madder. And I've said so many times,
I can't read your mind.
Just tell me. Just tell me what you need. I'll do whatever you need me to do. Just tell me what it is. And so you do so much better now of saying, hey, I'm really stressed out. I got a lot of things. We got a party Friday night, da-da-da-da-da.
Yep.
Can you help me do this?
Yeah.
Man, so it does help. But, you got to tune into it.
So one of the phrases that I had just a couple write down just today, and you might want to write down at the end, bottom of your paper, is mean what you say what you mean, but don't say it mean. If you want to be understood, if you want your spouse to listen to you and you really want to get across something important, then you got to mean what you say.
Right.
Don't say, oh, sure, I'll go with you when you don't really want to go.
Right.
Or sure, we can do that when you don't really want to do it. Like mean what you say and say what you mean, and don't say it mean. Do it respectfully and with love, and it goes a long way in understanding and listening to one another. So that's the you.
Yeah. Let's move on then. COUP.
P. Yes.
Peacemaking.
Yes.
What is that about?
Oh my goodness. Just admitting when you're wrong, acknowledging like I might have.
Are you saying I don't do that?
So, asking for forgiveness, offering forgiveness to me, acknowledging I messed up, I blew it. That goes a long way.
Yeah.
And just admitting.
Yeah. That's, I would hope, over the last, 10 years, I'm going to give some credit here in the man world to Jocko Willink. Jocko Willink was a former Navy SEAL, and he wrote a book called Discipline Equals Freedom. And if I could sum that up quickly, he came at men strongly with the idea of just own it. Own it. And so that's a big concept of admit when you're wrong, apologize, because that's where the growth comes on the other side. If I don't ever admit that I'm wrong, I got nothing to work on, right? And so we get to a stalemate quickly. And so I hope that I'm getting better at that. I hope that you see that I'm faster to say, man, I messed that up.
Yeah.
Now saying I'm sorry and not changing is not the answer.
No.
Okay. No. Saying I'm sorry and like, okay, what do I need to do better this next time? Right.
Yeah.
So
this is peacemaking, not peacekeeping. Okay. So the avoider will just like, whatever.
Keep the peace.
Keep the peace, right? Forget it. Never mind. Don't address issues. Again, we're going to mean what we say and say what we mean, but don't say it mean. And so we're asking for you to be a peacemaker. And sometimes that means having hard conversations. Yep. Sometimes that means owning your stuff. And so we're asking for the peacemaking. Yeah.
Hon, as you're talking about that, I use a phrase all the time. One of my deals is there will be no more arguing. Yeah. Right. And the idea there is not that there's no more disagreements, but the two things baked into an argument are we're going to have emotion baked into it, and we're going to have a win or a loss outcome. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so the idea here, so it's emotionally charged, and we're going to win at all costs. And so these are just dangerous things because we're saying, how can me win, like a 3-year-old, versus how can we win? Yeah. Yep. So the L is loyalty. And I feel loyal from you when you don't look other women, when you don't view pornography,
when you speak positively to me and about me. I feel like you got my back.
Right.
You know, if you're constantly oohing and ahhing and bouncing eyes all over the place with other women, or you're talking about how great so-and-so is, and you're throwing me under the bus, and maybe you're threatening to leave, maybe you're threatening to divorce, like all of those things just undermine that L of loyalty.
Right.
And us women want to feel safe with you. They
Yeah.
want to feel like you're not going anywhere, you're not straying. And, you know, when you have this coworker that's so funny and she's so cute and she's so nice to you, and you keep talking about that, or keep connecting with her, and like you said, that emotionally they start giving you what your spouse isn't giving you, man, that just undermines that loyalty. So ladies, we feel loved when our men feel loyal to us, or show their loyalty. So men, we really need you there to show your wife, I cherish you, I honor you, I respect you, I love you, and I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, and you said something there that I just want to circle back around on. When people get upset or angry or whatever, they make these threats.
Out of
maybe we
emotion.
should just end this. Maybe we should just get divorced. Maybe, and so just you have to put absolutes within your marriage. I absolutely would never do that. I absolutely always will guard this. And so the rule here is you just don't ever throw that word around.
No.
Like that's just. You just don't throw it around. It's not an option on the table because we have to protect that loyalty. Because with the loyalty comes security. Like, okay, we trust that everything is good here.
Yeah. You know, in 37 years of marriage, hon, over 37, you and I have never used that word.
No.
We've never talked about separation or divorce. And so because of that, I have this deep...
We did buy a king-size bed. No. I mean, that's about as far as, we did... It was like, oh, yes, finally I got some space. I got some space, finally. But that's about as far as we got.
Is that like the first step to divorce? So like if you have a king-size bed, like...
Man, like finally got some space over there.
Well, I think that'll save us for another 30 years of marriage, right? Because I did, so anyway, let's go back to that. So I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. It wasn't important. Oh, we're losing it. It's going south. We went south from the end of...
One more letter.
We got
one more letter.
We got this. Why is it in the bedroom? We lost it in the bedroom last week, too.
But, the king-size bed,
Okay.
It's not divorce.
It's not divorce.
Not even separation.
But it might be a good
but
compromise.
It's a little bit of space.
Okay, letter E.
E. What's the E about?
Esteem. And so that's what you just did with Carl in the Strong Dad Show. And that is, I feel treasured, I feel honored, I feel cherished by you, by verbally supporting me and honoring me and praising me and valuing me and cheering me on. Like, I just feel this esteem. I feel treasured by you. And so the opposite is true when I am being thrown under the bus, when I'm the butt of your jokes. I was just talking with a couple about this recently, where they're surrounded by friends who do that with their spouses all over the place and all the time. And so they're starting to feel uncomfortable with that because they don't want to be that couple.
Right.
They don't want to throw each other under the bus. They want to use this as a building block to loving and respecting their spouse. So that esteem is really important.
And we didn't always do good on that.
No.
I mean, we were sarcastic, and when everybody's in a good mood and you're sarcastic, you seem to be able to pull some things off. But when maybe somebody's not in that best mood and you poke fun, you start hitting below the belt, and we fell into that a bit.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So you have to be really careful. You have to read each other better. Certain things you just don't really talk about. Hon, I was as guilty as can be on this. I would make fun of you when you would drop stuff or spill stuff. And I don't get it. I don't understand it, right? And so you're very focused on a lot of different things at once, and so you'll knock something over. And for a lot of time, I would be like rolling my eyes or making fun of you, and because I just kind of thought, well, I guess it doesn't bother her. So, and you told me, like, I really would appreciate it if you did not do that. It's not like I'm trying to spill the glass or whatever. And you called me out on it, and I needed to be called out on it.
Yeah, but it was triggering something as a child that I was made fun of as a child. And so because of that, when you would do it and laugh and the kids would laugh, like I was triggering to me, like I felt so unloved.
Right.
I felt so unhonored and uncherished. And so for you to recognize that and to hear me and to do better, that does make me feel better. And I still do spill things. But I appreciate you handling that differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, this is not you'll flip the switch and it'll all be different. We are continuing to grow. And so Emerson will even talk about you'll get back into you'll fall into negative cycles again, crazy cycles. And so what that might mean is Linda might shoot a little disrespect at me. And then the next thing you know, I'm a little unloving to her with my words or whatever. And then she's disrespectful to me and then I'm unloving. And so you'll fall into those. That's when we talk about, I can feel there's tension between us. So the key here is awareness, like here we go. And then you mentioned the right word before, and Emerson talks about this. It takes maturity and it takes a humble heart to say, hey, let me just own what I need to own here. This is where I dropped the ball. This is where I was offended, or this is where I said the wrong thing. And so that you can, because once you flip it into the positive loop, when I'm loving, you're more respectful. That makes me want to love you more. And so we get the positive loop going, which pulls us out of the crazy cycle. So guys, this is not a one and done. You're going to hear this show and you'll be good, but it is a new tool that you can quickly get back to and resort to use so that you don't do years and years and years of this crazy.
Yeah, and Emerson talks about the respect test and women to go home and just give that unconditional respect to your husband and to see if it changes his demeanor and his approach to you. And so he calls that, instead of the negative core pattern of the crazy cycle, he calls that the energizing cycle.
Right.
And it becomes a positive loop where you start to feel encouraged and supported and cherished and loved and respected. And then he says, even past that, it's because of Christ, and he calls that the reward cycle, and that you do it not because he's given it back to you, but because Christ has called you, submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ. That's the reward cycle, and that is just where you find this depth of intimacy and connection and just feeling like you have that support and feel that safety in a relationship. So we want that for you. So if this is interesting to you and you're wanting to know more, please dig into the Love and Respect book by Dr. Emerson Eggerich.
Yeah. Honey, just as you were talking, I was reminded of the Gottman Institute, John Gottman, and the number one indicator for divorce is high levels of contempt.
Yeah.
And so what contempt meaning,
crazy cycle.
and that is the crazy cycle.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
When you feel that tension from each other and you got to get back at each other, you got to do that little jab, that little poke. That's the contempt that is growing. And so the number one indicator of divorce is when we have high levels of contempt. Yep. And so you have to understand that's not coincidental. These are things that you should recognize and realize the warning sign.
Yeah. He calls them the four horsemen, because it's like the apocalypse is coming, the death of your marriage. And so Dr. John Gottman, he's kind of the marriage guru.
He is the research
he's
geek.
the research guy. And so again, another great resource. But again, we're here to walk alongside you. If this was interesting to you and it kind of hit home, we would love to meet with you. You can get a hold of us at rocksolidfamilies.org. We have couples that Zoom with us all over the country. And so you don't have to be in the Cincinnati tri-state area. We are in Southeast Indiana. Our office is there. But again, we can connect with you wherever.
All right. So guys, we thank you for listening to Rock Solid Families Podcast. We want to thank our sponsors again, Maxwell Construction, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and the Hoosier Ice House. Again, thank all of you guys. And, now everybody knows that we've got a king-size bed. Wow, that's breaking news.
Holy cow. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to the Rock Solid Families Podcast, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day.
Rock Solid Families wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families Podcast. Casey's has grown to be one of the largest and most unique garden centers and gift shops in the Cincinnati tri-state area. Whether you are looking to take on that next landscape project or simply add a little home decor to your house, Casey's has you covered. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Call them today at 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home. Rock Solid Families wants to thank Maxwell Construction for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast. For over 30 years, Maxwell Construction has been a leader in turning dreams into realities, building schools, banks, restaurants, and many other commercial and public facilities. Maxwell Construction has made it their priority to not just build buildings, but to build into their community. So if you have any construction needs, call them at 812-537-2200.
Rock Solid Families would like to thank Hoosier Ice House for being a proud sponsor of the Rock Solid Families podcast. In the heart of historic Lawrenceburg, Indiana, the Ice House is at the corner of Vine and High Streets. The historic building evokes a feeling of comfort with spacious indoor and outdoor dining, a large bar, and comfortable dining areas. Large enough to host parties, yet intimate enough to feel like your favorite neighborhood restaurant. So thank you again for the Hoosier Ice House for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast.